What is nature vs. nurture? The nature vs. nurture debate has been here for a long time, with various scholars, psychologists, and philosophers giving their point of view on what nature and nurture it is. Essentially, this debate has always been centered on behavioral advancement. What therefore is nature vs. nurture? According to pro-nature debate, what human beings develop to be, where they are coming from and the genetic makeup, as well as inheritable traits such as our body structure from the parents, are what defines the human being's nature. These components, in their opinion, are what shape the behavior of man. The proponents of nurture, on the other hand, contest the argument of the pro-nature by arguing that nurture is responsible for influencing the character, the physical appearance of man, as well as the actions. Nurture is defined as the upbringing of a person that is largely influenced by the environmental factors, such as the family, what we went through as children, the friends we had as children, and our way of life, or the cultural factors. Despite the two standpoints, the relationship between the two variables is such that they depend on each other, and one cannot stand on its own given the important part they play in our life. The genesis of nature vs. nurture dates back to the times of greatest philosophers like Socrates and Plato and Socrates. These philosophers, in their contribution to the puzzling debate of nurture versus natures, said that there is natural occurrence occasioned by the virtue of inborn characteristics. These things are not happening due to the factors of the environment, far from the nativism proponents, whose arguments were that genealogy was the key influence of all behaviors exhibited by man. Furthermore, the nativists said that children are born with a clean slate, as their brain is completely unoccupied by anything, but they learn and make their brains functional when they grow and develop. As human beings progress from childhood into adulthood, several changes occur. These changes are both influenced by nature and nurture. There is no single point that one can rule out the input of nature in their lives. In other words, there is no major difference between nature and nurture. Biologically, human beings inherit genes from their parents. The family tree is carried on to the subsequent generations. This has been scientifically proven to be the reason why some people suffer from certain ailments, and some do not, why others are tall while others are short in terms of size. Despite nature's contribution to such instances, nurture is equally important in changing human beings' lives. The environment influences to a greater degree our worldview and our behaviors, because there is always an interaction between the biological factors that make us and the environmental factors that we interact with. Theorists, in their attempt to explain nature vs. nurture examples, use the maturation concept that focuses on a child and the development stages of childhood. They argue that determined genetic events that are successively unfolding spontaneously are the basis of development. In essence, the theory expresses that there is a process that is biological which occurs over a duration based on stages that are predictable. The speech is acquired by a child based on their genetic makeup according to this theory. The stage involved in the acquisition of speech is the development of interest in signs and sounds at first by a child from their mother and father before they begin to utter words. On the contrary, it is not possible for the genes to fully carry out their functionalities without the important input of the environment. If, for instance, a child, because of the genes inherited from the parents, is born deaf, acquiring the ability to speak becomes impossible. Sign language, which can be learned from the environment within which the child is, becomes the only alternative way of communicating with the world. What this implies is that there is interconnectedness between the two factors, that is, biological composition and the environment. Some studies went further to suggest, or rather proving, that children kept far away from human interaction, or who are kept in isolation, will still develop their own way of communicating. This proves the input of the surrounding environment in influencing certain things in human life. However, these children may develop mental challenges as well as physical challenges because they lack parental love, care, and the ability to pick the human languages. This underlines the fact that there is indeed a relationship between the environment and genetic factors. In every aspect of human life, as well as our interaction with nature, nurture and nature are intertwined and therefore cannot be separated. Several instances can attest to the fact that these scenarios, other than being the key components in human progression, are also related. For example, academic success has to some extent elicited a debate as to whether there is a genetic modification warranting success for others or whether environmental factors are the determinants of academic excellence. The commonly asked question also centers on domestic violence, where some spouses are physically and emotionally abused, therefore making one wonder if either one of the spouses abusing the other was born with such tendencies, or if they got such characters from the people, the environment they interact with as they grew up. The truth is that apportioning blame to either factor as a contributor to a given behavior will almost be impossible, at the common standpoint is that the two equally contribute to our behavior. Other than the obvious influences that are affected by our genetic composition, such as the color of our eyes, hair, and diseases like diabetes, a person's lifestyle, which is largely environmental, can influence his or her lifespan. Our immune system can be compromised if we opt for food or a lifestyle that is devastating our health. For example, consumption of oily foodstuff, which is full of cholesterol, can clog our arteries, hence contribute to heart diseases. Just to conclude, despite the debate about nurture versus nature having been here for a very long time, it is seemingly not ending soon, given that the current debates are skewed toward one side that different researchers think is the right argument. This continues to attract counterarguments, either dismissing their finding or affirming it. However, there is generally a consensus to the effect that nature vs. nurture is just a debate, but they cannot be isolated, as both complement each other. However, the difference between nature and nurture can be established. From the guide to the nature versus nurture example given, you are now fully equipped to write one of your own. If you need some more nature vs. nurture examples, contact us. We have plenty of samples on offer. Conclusion: while trying to grasp how to start a nature vs. nurture essay, understanding of what is nature vs. nurture provides the foundation. It is nearly impossible to dichotomize the nurture from nature, and the vice versa, given their joint contribution, and, for that reason, even the ancient belief that one was superior by the other is no longer making sense. There is indeed no much difference between nature and nurture.